What if your heartbreak was never a mistake but a setup for something greater? Maybe you've been praying for answers, hoping for a sign, yet all you've received is silence. Maybe you're holding on to a relationship that seems to be slipping away, and you wonder, is God really working? Or am I just fooling myself? Love can be one of life's greatest blessings, but it can also be one of its deepest pains. And when things don't go the way we expected, we start questioning everything. Did I miss God's voice? Was this person really meant for me? Why does it feel like everything is falling apart? But what if what looks like an ending is actually a new beginning? What if the very thing you're crying over today is what God is using to bring you into something far better? In this message, we're going to dive into 3 shocking ways God might be fixing your love life right now, even if it doesn't feel like it. You may not see it yet, but He is always working behind the scenes, aligning things for your good. Stay with me until the end, because the last one might just change the way you see everything. Let's get started. Have you ever begged God to keep someone in your life, only to watch them walk away? Maybe it was a person you truly loved. Maybe it was a relationship that felt like it had so much potential. And yet, for some reason, things ended. The calls stopped. The connection faded. They moved on, and you were left wondering why. It's in these moments that we're tempted to believe that we've lost something valuable. We cry out to God, asking, "Why would you let this happen? Why would you take this person away from me?" But what if the removal was actually God's protection? One of the hardest truths to accept is that not every person who enters our lives is meant to stay. Some people are there for a season, to teach us something, to help us grow, or even to serve as a wake-up call. But just because someone played a role in your past doesn't mean they are meant to be part of your future. The Bible gives us a powerful example of what happens when we ignore God's warnings about the people we attach ourselves to. Samson was chosen by God, set apart for a great purpose. But he fell in love with Delilah, a woman who ultimately betrayed him. He ignored the red flags, he kept pushing past the warnings, and in the end, he lost his strength, his freedom, and nearly his life. He thought he could handle it. He thought he knew better. But the very person he loved was the one who led to his downfall. Maybe God is removing someone from your life because He sees something you don't. Maybe He knows that the person you're chasing after isn't truly for you. Maybe He's heard conversations you haven't, seen betrayals you haven't, and He's protecting you from heartbreak that you can't yet see. One of the biggest mistakes we make is trying to reopen doors that God has already closed. We text them again. We stalk their social media. We hold on to hope when God has already told us to let go. But when God removes someone, He's not being cruel. He's being kind. Maybe that relationship was leading you away from your purpose. Maybe that person was delaying your healing. Maybe that connection was keeping you from the person God actually has for you. If God took them away, it's because He's making room for something better. Right now, you might not see the full picture. Right now, it may feel like the worst thing that could have happened. But one day, you will look back and thank God for the prayers He didn't answer. Isaiah 55:8-9 reminds us, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." God sees what you don't. He knows what's ahead. So, instead of chasing after what He has removed, ask Him for the strength to trust. What if letting go is the very thing that leads you to the right person? So often we focus on what's missing. We assume that if we're still single, or if our relationship isn't working out, it must be because something or someone isn't right. We wonder if we just haven't found the right person yet, or if maybe the one we love isn't ready. But what if God isn't just working on them? What if He's working on you first? It's easy to believe that we're prepared for love when, in reality, we're still in a process of healing, growth, and preparation. Sometimes the reason God hasn't brought that relationship into your life, or hasn't restored the one you lost, is because He is refining you. He's shaping your heart, strengthening your character, and removing anything that could sabotage what He wants to bless you with. God isn't withholding love from you. He's preparing you for the kind of love that comes from Him. Imagine gold being refined in fire. It doesn't become valuable instantly. It goes through intense heat, melting away its impurities, so that what remains is pure, strong, and beautiful. In the same way, God sometimes allows us to go through a season of waiting, not as punishment, but as preparation. He is refining your patience, your faith, and your ability to love in a way that honors Him. He wants to make sure that when the right person arrives, you are ready to receive them with a heart that is healed, whole, and aligned with His purpose. In the Bible, Joseph went through years of trials before stepping into his God-given destiny. He was betrayed, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and forgotten in prison. But all of those hardships were shaping him for the purpose God had prepared for him. If Joseph had received his promotion before he was ready, he wouldn't have been able to carry the weight of his calling. In the same way, God may be holding back your relationship, not because He doesn't want to bless you, but because He wants to make sure you are truly prepared to carry the responsibility of love. We live in a world that rushes everything. We want love, marriage, and fulfillment on our own timeline. But true love, the kind that lasts, the kind that is built on a foundation of faith, requires patience. Psalm 37:4 says, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." This doesn't mean that God will give you whatever you ask for at any time. It means that when you truly seek Him, your desires start to align with His desires for you. Instead of asking, "When will I meet the right person?" ask, "Who am I becoming in this season?" Instead of trying to rush ahead, take a moment to reflect. Are you becoming the person that the person you're praying for is also praying for? Are you learning to love with patience, kindness, and selflessness? Are you letting God shape you into the kind of partner that reflects His heart? What if this waiting season isn't about finding the right person, but about becoming the right person? Would you still trust God if He asked you to wait longer than you expected? It's easy to trust God when everything is going our way, when prayers are answered quickly, when relationships fall into place effortlessly. But what about when nothing seems to be happening? What about when the waiting drags on, when the silence feels deafening, when it seems like everyone else is moving forward while you're stuck in place? What if God is not only preparing you, but also testing your faith? Abraham and Sarah knew this kind of waiting well. God had promised them a son, a future, a legacy. But years passed, and nothing happened. The promise seemed farther away with every sunrise. Eventually, they decided to take matters into their own hands. Sarah gave her servant Hagar to Abraham so they could have a child through her. It seemed like a logical solution, but it wasn't God's plan. The decision led to division, heartache, and consequences they never expected. They tried to force something that only God could bring in His perfect timing. How often do we do the same? How often do we grow tired of waiting and take shortcuts? We force relationships that aren't meant for us. We compromise our standards because we think time is running out. We settle for less because we don't trust that God truly has something better. But rushing ahead of God never leads to fulfillment. It only leads to regret. Maybe you're in a season where God is asking you to trust Him even when you don't see progress. Maybe you've been praying for a relationship, for restoration, for clarity, but all you've received is silence. This is where faith is tested. Do you trust that God is working even when you can't see it? Do you believe that His timing is perfect even when it doesn't match your own? Faith isn't proven in the moments when everything makes sense. It's proven in the moments when nothing does, and yet you still choose to believe. God never forgets His promises. Just as He fulfilled His word to Abraham and Sarah, though it took years longer than they expected, He will fulfill His promises to you. But His timing is not our timing. His ways are not our ways. Proverbs 3:5-6 reminds us, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight." God's silence is not His absence. His delays are not His denials. Sometimes He's testing our faith to see if we trust Him more than we trust our own desires. And if we remain faithful, if we keep trusting even when it's hard, we will see that everything He has planned is worth the wait. You may not see it now, but one day, you will look back and realize that everything, the heartbreak, the waiting, the unanswered prayers, was shaping you for something far greater than you imagined. God is always working, even when it feels like nothing is happening. Maybe He removed someone from your life, not as a punishment, but as a protection. Maybe He's keeping you in a season of singleness. not because you're forgotten, but because he's refining you. Maybe he's asking you to wait, not because he's withholding something from you, but because he's preparing something better than you could ever create on your own. Right now, you have a choice. You can fight against what God is doing, hold on to what he's trying to remove, rush ahead of his plan, or you can surrender. You can trust that his timing is perfect, that his ways are higher, and that he knows exactly what he's doing. Jeremiah 29:11 reminds us, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." If you truly believe that, then you know that God will not allow you to miss what he has for you. If he's shifting things in your love life, there's a reason. If he's asking you to wait, there's a purpose. If he's saying no, it's because he has a better yes waiting for you. So, what about you? Which of these 3 signs do you see in your life right now? Has God removed someone? Is he working on you first? Is he testing your faith in the waiting? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your story and pray for you. And if this message spoke to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs this encouragement today. No matter what your love life looks like right now, trust this. God is never late, never wrong, and never out of options. If he's working, even in ways you don't understand, he's preparing something greater than you ever imagined.